Hey, and welcome to this Freaky Friday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. We're coming today live, breezing through, and just finishing off another week from the Question Tequila Studios. We're in our little outpost studio here on Broadway in downtown Manhattan, right down the street. Kick off this Friday. The Dow Jones is well in the black today, up 150 points as key White House economic advisor Lawrence Kudlow came out and said that there was some significant progress on the China trade talks. The bulls love that. Market up 150. Bitcoin down just a bit. And we have some breaking news to kick off this Freaky Friday. Frank Morano joins me, and Frank is working it. What's happening, Frank?
Well, it is my unfortunate duty to report, not just for friends of mine, but for the Republic, that just moments ago, a Washington, D.C. jury has found Roger Stone guilty of all 7 counts for which he was charged. This includes obstruction of proceeding, witness tampering charges, giving false statements to a House committee, among other charges. So he's going to be sentenced on February 6th. You can be sure that the Stone defense team will appeal.
Now, is he still on the gag while he's awaiting sentencing?
That is a good. Well, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. We'll see what Judge Jackson has to say.
Can they actually ban him from speaking post-trial?
That is a good question. I would think at this point, until he either gets sentenced or the appeal is heard or there's a pardon, I would think that he probably is not going to want to do anything to poke the bear of Judge Amy Jackson.
I don't know about that.
But I will say that this whole trial was rigged from the get-go. For starters, the jury pool was abysmal. I mean, this was a jury pool which I said from the get-go was really not reflective of America, certainly not reflective of Roger's peers. It was a typical DC-hating, a DC-based Trump-hating jury. They should have changed the venue to somewhere that there was a little more representative of what the rest of the country is like, maybe a Virginia jury or a Maryland jury. I don't think Roger got the best defense from his attorneys here. There were all sorts of things.
I don't think there was a defense.
There were all sorts of things that I really wish they would have brought out. Additionally,
that Randy Credico's a drug addict?
Well, no, that was brought out.
Okay, that was
and additionally, I think Roger probably made a mistake by not taking the stand himself and giving his version of events.
Was he allowed? He's under gag.
Well,
was he allowed to even take the stand?
Of course,
Do we know?
Of course, you can take the stand in your own.
Al Pacino said it best. This whole damn court is out of order.
Well, I will say,
from the get-go, it was a kangaroo court. They could have rolled in a ham sandwich and said Trump supporter, and they would have sentenced the guy right there on the spot. If they could give that penalty, I wouldn't be surprised in Washington D.C. if they'd give it to Roger.
Well, we'll see when he's sentenced what he actually does end up getting, but he's facing decades worth of prison time for these 7 crimes.
Can I mention that Randy Credico is a drug addict?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that are.
His testimony primarily that convicted Roger.
Well, it's not just him, though. You had Rick Gates. You had Steve Bannon.
Rick Gates is a rat.
But you had a whole bunch of people. You had Dr. Jerome Corsi.
Okay, so you got a drug addict and a rat. Keep going.
Yeah.
You need a priest and a nun. We got a bar joke here.
I think it's a real shame because basically what Roger was convicted of here was being a Trump supporter.
That's right.
And if you don't like Roger Stone or if you don't like Donald Trump, keep in mind that once the Justice Department has that power over you, once they have it over Roger, they have it over you.
They
can go after anybody for anything. Think about what your life would be like if you were charged with lying to Congress and you were awoken with a Gestapo-like raid.
29 SWAT team members, frogmen in boats behind his house. He's a 70-year-old guy on a process crime.
Of El Chapo.
They didn't send 40 people to go get Michael Avenatti, the fraudster attorney who brought the Stormy Simons story to the front.
Right, and think of what it would be
like. He
went
and gave himself in.
To, have to raise millions of dollars for your own defense, to lose your own home, for what? For now, what Roger's been convicted of is obstruction of proceeding, lying to Congress, and witness tampering. It is a real shame because...
Didn't Bill Clinton lie to Congress?
No.
He didn't. He didn't perjure himself in sworn testimony?
Well, he did, but not to Congress.
But it was part of what led to the impeachment.
Well, a lot of people believe that a sitting president can't be indicted, which is why he was impeached.
Well, they said now they can go after the president after.
Yeah, exactly.
Why didn't we go after him after?
Well,
they're going to try to do that to Trump.
Well, that
you got
was one
Tish
of
James over here in New York State, like sharpening our knives. You got Cyrus Vance over here throwing, the New York State legislature threw out double jeopardy
let's keep it focused on the case that we're talking about here. No, you're not. You're making false equivalencies to other politicians that have also done bad things. So I know President Trump and a lot of his supporters watch the network regularly, and I do hope that President Trump will recognize the fact that Roger really was denied a fair trial here, in my judgment. And I do hope that President Trump pardons Roger Stone. We're awaiting word on Twitter from President Trump. Thus far, we haven't seen any tweets of the president commenting on the verdict, but you can bet as soon as there is, we're going to bring it to you.
The voir dire was, hey, how are you? Do you hate Donald Trump? Yes. Oh, I hate him. Okay, this juror is in. What was that woman you were talking about last week?
Right. Well, a former Obama White House staffer whose husband currently works for the Department of Justice. She remained in the jury pool.
Let's see. That sounds like grounds for appeal.
Well, it's one of many. It's one of many. But
right.
This is some of the mistakes.
The saga continues. My prediction, quite frankly, is that Roger never spends a single day in jail, rightfully so. And if another appeals court turns him down, and that'll drag on for another 6 months or so, as long as we get past the 2020 election, if anything crazy happens, Trump, hopefully, will give the guy a pardon.
Well, the other breaking news that we're following is that the news coming out of D.C., the impeachment proceeding, we're going to be carrying live coverage throughout the day, and we're going to be watching, right as the impeachment proceeding began, including the testimony of Ambassador Yovanovitch, President Trump actually released the transcript of his first phone call with the president-elect of Ukraine. So it's very interesting timing there, but they're really putting the screws to not only Donald Trump but Rudy Giuliani at this hearing. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Whopper of a show coming up, and if you think it's freaky now, you think I'm fired up now. Wait till you see what's coming at you. John McDonough's here. He's a comic, and he's a pundit. He's also one of the guys who was responsible to make sure that Randy Credico got to the airport to go testify and indict Roger Stone.
He was great on CBS Sunday Morning on Sunday.
Sunday mornings. And we got Rich Valdez coming down here. Rich is the host of the This Is America podcast. He's also a producer of the Mark Levin Show. And he's one of my favorite guests. And he's considering a run against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So hopefully Valdez will make some moves in that direction. Gianno Caldwell is joining us today. Dr. Louisa Petrie is a cardiologist and nutrition expert. You're going to love her. And guys, stay tuned for hour 2, because Courtney Burns is going to be on. She's the FHM cover woman, and she's going to be talking about your health. And it's going to be very healthy for you to stay tuned right through to hour 2. And then congressional candidate for New York 11, Joe Calderera joins us today a little later on in the show. You know, it has been my expressed mission to get rid of Max Rose, who's the lying congressman in Staten Island. First of all, he carpetbagged his way in. Okay, he got swept in these midterm elections by lying to all Staten Island. He wrote an op-ed in the Staten Island Advance saying, I am against impeachment. It will divide us. It's one of the worst things we can do. Nancy Pelosi came down, tapped him on the shoulder. She put her foot on his neck. You're going to need some money from the DNCC next year when you get a challenge from the right. If you want my money, you better be on board with impeachment. And Frankie, what did he do? A week later, right after his op-ed.
That's right. He voted in favor of the impeachment inquiry.
He did.
Yeah.
So he lied to us.
Well, I view it that way. But
That's
now
the way I look at it.
he's saying, well, look, an inquiry is not necessarily an impeachment. We're just exploring.
He voted in favor of exploring further what he said would divide us.
That's right.
So he voted for division, and he's a liar. And Joe Calderera is going to be here. He's a young Republican. He's got some good thoughts. We're going to present them to you, and you make the call. If you live in New York 11, if you ask me, anything's better than a liar. And he exposed himself in the first term because they're most vulnerable in the first term. So we got to knock this guy, Max Rose, out of the box. And after Joe Calderera, we're going to clean up. We're going to clean up good. We're going to end the show with a whopper, one of my favorites on a Friday. Pavlina Oster joins us talking about millennials, Gen Zs, and all that cool stuff. And then I have made a significant amount of mistakes this week. Yesterday, Frank left early, so I'm sure he was logging what mistakes I made yesterday, and we're going to wrap it all up for you, put a nice bow on it for the weekend, and then Saturday, tomorrow, at 5 o'clock, you put on the TV, okay, and you're going to see Liquid Lunch, the best shots of Liquid Lunch, so anything you missed, you should watch.
I'm going to watch.
Because you didn't see yesterday's show.
That's
because
true.
You were traveling to Westchester, but you got on the wrong train and you wound up in Connecticut.
That's true.
So what happened? Did you make your engagement?
I eventually made it, yes.
You did make
but it cost me a good deal more money in train fare than I should have been spending to go to New Rochelle.
The gods of television were watching. They karmatically rerouted you to the wrong place to make you suffer some pain. But we missed you dearly. And today we'll WTF it really good.
Actually,
I'll
I
make some
can't
mistakes
wait.
on purpose today if
Thank
I
you.
have to.
Thank
you
you.
know what I mean? But
I appreciate that.
I don't think I have to do it intentionally. You know? How was it?
Oh, it was fine. It was fine. But now, let me.
You want to tell us about the debate you moderated?
Well, it wasn't really a debate. It was just a discussion about career. I mean, I don't think on a day with this much breaking news, I don't think it's of that much interest
all right.
to the
I like to let the
viewing
viewers
public.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Well, Saturday, tomorrow at 5, if I hadn't mentioned it, you got to tune into the best shots of Liquid
5
Lunch.
Eastern.
That's 5 Eastern.
2 o'clock
And right after us at 5, you have at 6, Michelle Malkin, okay? And then at 7, the Grand Poobah, Bill O'Reilly. So you mix up a tall, stiff, cold drink, you sit down at 5 o'clock, and you sit right there in front of the television watching Newsmax from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8. Liquid Lunch, Malkin, O'Reilly. That's pretty good. And on the Saturday show, all the behind the scenes.
That's right.
All the mayhem and all the nutty stuff that goes on that you don't see. Sometimes you see smoke coming out of my ears. My head's about to explode. The vein comes down because there's all kinds of craziness going on behind the scenes. We show all that to you on Saturday. You see the love and harmony that exists behind the scenes. What other breaking news do we have today?
Well, the impeachment, you have the news of today's the last day to register in New Hampshire for the presidential
I'm still
primary.
thinking about it.
So Deval Patrick registered yesterday to run.
One of our viewers, if you're considering Barack Obama's toady, I want you to remember this. Mitt Romney was the governor of Massachusetts, and then he was the founder of Bain Capital in some order, okay? Deval Patrick was the governor of Massachusetts, and then he became chief executive at Bain Capital. And Obama crushed him, crushed Romney about the evil, greedy Bain Capital, and that's where Deval Patrick came from. So don't let him fool you, folks. And by the way, one of our viewers, Frank Barbarino, wanted to let me know he did some fact checking. It took Deval Patrick 3 times to pass the bar. If you're thinking about it, and yeah, tune in tomorrow and you'll see why you hear slamming and banging going on while we're doing a live show. But we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Rich Valdez and John McDonough right after this.